Hey y'all, it's Brian here from Red Leaf, and today I want to show you the easiest way to start a garden. When we started our vegetable garden back in 2020, I got plenty of help from my partner who loves to garden. In his many years of gardening, he started many beds through tilling. But within 5 minutes of me starting our very first garden bed, I dropped my shovel and thought to myself, there had to be another way. Tilling was so laborious, and honestly, it felt kind of counterproductive to what I understood about gardens at the time, especially if the soil is one of the most important things you need to take care of. Why are we out here ripping everything up, disturbing the soil, and breaking our backs in the process? There had to be another way. So I scoured the internet for alternatives and I discovered no-till gardening, and it completely changed our lives. Not just my life, but his too. Someone who has been gardening for most of his life and tilled his way through it all. No-till literally changed the way we view gardening and start gardens altogether. It is so beginner friendly. Literally anyone can do this. And it's so much better for the environment. Today we are over by our chicken run, and I have been dreaming of having a garden bed around the perimeter of the actual run. I've already gone through and created the edge that I wanted so I could actually have the shape of the bed. I've already gone through and started this area over here, but as I was getting over here, I was like, wait, I have to show people how to start a bed without tilling. To create the actual border and edge of the garden bed, I use this really lovely tool called an edger. You use this tool to pierce into the earth and lift to create the edge that you want for the border of a garden. I don't have plans to make like a fancy edge with any sort of materials, so creating a trench like this is a really nice way to get a garden bed started easily. This trench is going to prevent any pre-existing plants or weeds from easily trying to infiltrate your garden bed. When excavating the edge, I was lifting up any pre-existing soil with plants in it and literally flipping it over into the area where I want my garden bed to be. Usually when people are starting garden beds using the tilling process, they're either flipping the soil completely or just removing that top layer altogether, which I don't find absolutely necessary because all of this is going to break down through the no-till garden process and become sustenance and nutrients for the soil and the plants that you're going to plant here. So I flipped all this sod over, and you can see that there's also still pre-existing plants here. Like, I'm not going to rip any of this out. I'm not going to flip any of this soil. It's basically looking like this under all the dirt that I've already thrown in here. But I'm going to leave all of this as is. Like I said, all of this is going to become part of the ecology of the soil. It would be a shame to remove it. Once you've decided where your garden bed is going to be, the no-till garden can be done in 5 easy steps. Aerate, barrier, soak, lay, and mulch. That's it. Brian, what are you talking about? Let me walk you through the steps. So our very first step is aerate, and that means we are going to pierce the earth, loosen it up just a little bit to allow air into the soil, to oxygenate the soil, and to invigorate the ecology, the microbes within the soil. And you can do that using a pitchfork or a broad fork. I have this really dense digging fork that is going to be perfect for this. You pierce, you get in a few inches, and you're just going to gently lift the earth. You're not going to flip, you're just gently lifting until you see some cracks in the soil. Then you're going to pull out, you're going to release. You'll see some cracks forming in the soil. That's great. That's what we want. That means air is getting in. But like I said, we are not completely flipping over, being super aggressive and completely disrupting what these microbes got going on already. We're just kind of waking them up a little bit. And the reason I really like doing this is because, the ecology underneath the soil thrives because it's shady, it's cool, they are protected from the sun. When you till and completely flip over the soil, you are exposing that really fragile ecosystem to the harsh rays of the sun. And many organisms, many microorganisms, die in the process. This is a good way to invigorate them without completely wiping them out in the process. All right, our soil is worked and aerated. I think this would be a really good time too as well. If there are any like larger plants, larger perennials in the soil that have like a deep or intense existing root system, I would recommend removing those. This process is pretty effective at killing off a lot of plants, but I feel like something with like a deeper taproot would would have a better chance at surviving this process. So definitely uproot those, get them out of the bed to save you any difficulty in the long run. Now that we have aerated the soil, the next step is going to be lay down a barrier, a weed barrier, essentially. And in order for this to work, it needs to be a biodegradable weed barrier. So cardboard or newspaper is a really great thing to use. This is a really good opportunity to repurpose any packaging that you've gotten in the mail, any old newspapers. If you are going to use cardboard, do not use anything with a glossy coating or excessive amounts of ink. And if there is plastic tape on it, remove the tape because that isn't going to break down in the soil anytime soon. For this, I'm actually going to be using contractor's paper, essentially recycled construction paper, a biodegradable weed barrier. You want it to be biodegradable because over time it's going to break down and become part of the ecology in the soil. That is so important. You don't want something that's going to stay there forever like plastic. Another really great thing about using cardboard, newspaper, or this contractor's paper is that it's a carbon-based material. Worms especially love carbon. So using materials like this for your weed barrier is going to attract a lot of worms, which are the OG farmers. Worms get in there, create tunnels, aerate the soil even further. As all of this organic material breaks down, the worms feed on it along with all the other microorganisms in the soil. And as they break it down, they turn it into poop, worm castings, which is nothing but goodness for your soil. We're going to use this as a weed barrier to essentially block sunlight from getting to all of the plants that are already here. Plants need sunlight in order to thrive. When they are cut off from it, they start to die away. And as all of this dies and breaks down, it's just going to become so much goodness in the soil. That's why I love no-till gardening. Rather than getting rid of everything that's here, you're actually using it for the success of your garden bed the way nature intended. Let's lay down this paper. What I will say about the contractor's paper, it is relatively light. So I do imagine light is still gonna be able to shine through it. So I'm actually gonna lay down 2 layers of this just to really make sure I have enough barrier over my bed. There she goes. Oh. Note to self, try not to do this on a windy day. I just skip ahead a little bit and start the next phase of the process, which is soak it. Once your biodegradable material is laid down, you're gonna soak it. You wanna get it really nice and wet to really flatten it and mold it to the space. And this is also gonna speed up the breaking down process. So get it nice and wet, soak it for a good like 10, 15 minutes. You want it really wet before continuing on to the next step. All right, all of our paper and cardboard are nice and soaked. Now time for the 4th step. It's time to lay down our garden soil. We're getting really close, y'all. Now, the type of garden soil you lay down really depends on the type of garden you are building. If it's like a tree or shrub garden, there is a specific tree and shrub soil mix. If it is a flower garden, there is a flower garden mix, vegetable garden mix. This one's actually a flower and vegetable garden mix, so that's what I'm gonna be laying down here. And you literally lay it right on top of your material. Ugh. Ugh. Look at that soil! I'm gonna try to do this quick because I don't want my material to dry up and start blowing away again. You wanna lay down enough soil that you get like a nice 2 to 3 inch layer on top of the biodegradable material. Now, I did say this was the easiest way to start a garden. There's still work involved though. There's still work involved. So I dropped my mounds. Now to spread it out all nice. We're gonna lay it out nice and thick. Now, if you don't necessarily want to opt for using a garden soil per se, another nice thing you can lay on top is compost, worm castings. Ideally, you do want to use um, an organic mix. Shut up, Olive. It's so satisfying to lay it down and see the cardboard disappear. All right, the soil is laid, and what a difference! Oh my gosh, it's really starting to come together, y'all. I'm so excited. Now, the final step here is going to be laying down some mulch. Let's do it. I don't want to step on it, but I gotta step on it. I'll just follow my footsteps. Now, this final step, laying down mulch, is crucial. You know how we soaked our paper in cardboard? This garden soil is nice and moist. We want to retain that moisture as much as we can, especially throughout the gardening season. And a really great way to do that is laying down mulch. Mulch is going to prevent the harsh rays of the sun from hitting your soil directly, which will stop the moisture in the soil from evaporating so quickly. It'll also help protect the ecology within the soil, those microbes from the harsh UV rays of the sun, and it's also going to help prevent weeds from popping up like crazy. So we have our weed berry, we have our garden soil. With this added layer of mulch on top, it is almost certain that anything that is underneath this, any of those pre-existing plants, they aren't gonna make it. Depending on what you're growing in the bed, that's gonna impact the type of mulch that you use. This is gonna be an ornamental bed, so I am gonna be growing flowers, shrubs, this beautiful tree. So I have no problem using a wood-based mulch. It does leach a little bit of acidity into the soil, which most of these flowering plants are not gonna mind, but if you are using this to make a vegetable bed, I would opt for organic hay or straw. Nothing that's been sprayed with pesticides, okay? Can y'all shut up? Damn! The most satisfying part. Spreading it. Ooh. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you've noticed, but I like to lay it on pretty thick. This is another layer that I like to make sure it's at least 2 to 3 inches thick. Shut up, Olive. Can't you see I'm trying to have a Zen moment? Time for the grand reveal. Ah! Are you ready? Wow. Oh my God. It came out so nice. Seriously, laying down that mulch makes all the difference. Now it really looks like a proper garden bed. This garden bed is officially done. Abundance! Now here's the thing with these no-till garden beds. Really, when you plant in it is up to you. If you prepare the bed, you can literally let this sit here for a few weeks, a few months, to let the cardboard, the soil, the mulch do what it's gonna do with everything underneath. Let all of that marinate, break down, and let that soil underneath amend. You can totally do that. But if you really, really wanted to, which usually I do because I'm impatient and how am I just gonna start a garden bed like this and not plant in it? You can literally plant in it right away. So stick around, I'm gonna show you how to plant in a no-dig garden. I am so excited. I have set some flowers down for this bed. Now let me show you just how easy it is to plant in a no-till garden. Here we have a gorgeous salvia plant. I am so excited to plant these. They are so beautiful and pollinators absolutely love them. They produce all of these really lovely columns of flowers. Such a gorgeous color. So to get started, I'm actually gonna move my layer of mulch out of the way to expose the soil underneath. I'm gonna move it pretty far out of the way because, you know, depending on how deep our hole is and how much of the actual soil we're gonna move out of the way, I try my best not to mix up the mulch and the soil too much because the goal of all of this is to really make it look like we were never here, like this plant has been here the entire time. So if you get a little bit of the soil mixed up in the mulch, that's no problem. That's really just an aesthetic thing for me. It's your garden. At the end of the day, you do you, Buki. Now I'm just gonna reassess. I want my plant here. These don't spread too much, so I don't mind clumping them a little closer together. Now that I know my placement, I'm gonna move the soil I have here out of the way to reveal the cardboard or paper that's under here. Oh, we got cardboard here, which is totally fine. Move the camera down a little just so you can see it better. But as you can see, we've moved our mulch out of the way. We got our soil out of the way. Once you have the cardboard or whatever biodegradable material you have here exposed, and I know my plant's gonna go here, I'm gonna use a sharp edge tool to carve a hole in the cardboard. I don't wanna remove all the cardboard altogether because I need it to do what it's gonna do, kill off any of the weeds surrounding my plant. Remove the cardboard. It's gonna reveal what's underneath. Now you'll notice that there are definitely still pre-existing plants here. That's totally fine. I'm actually gonna use a pickaxe, which is a little more aggressive to start working this soil and getting this spot ready. If you do have pre-existing plants in the spot there, you can go ahead and remove them. I find it's much easier to remove plants in the specific area where you're going to be planting versus taking care of the whole bed, Some of those thick roots out of the way. Now, the general rule of thumb for whatever hole you prepare for a plant, you usually want it to be around twice the size of the pot that the plant is coming from. Wow, this soil is actually surprisingly nice and fluffy for being clay. Right, so I'm going to throw some of that garden soil in the hole because it has some goodness for the plant there. Just work it at the base. I get my plant out of its pot. We do have some root boundness happening here, so I'm going to actually loosen up the roots a little bit. I like loosening up the soil at the base of the hole so it's easier for the roots to settle in. I vibe with that. I like that placement. So I'm gonna work it back in. It's okay if you mix up the existing soil with some of your added soil. At the end of the day, once you add the mulch on, you're not really gonna see. Firmly press it in to lock her into place. Now that my plant is planted, put that mulch back into place here. And there you go. Our plant is planted. And it literally looks like we were never here, right? That's the beauty of mulch. Now the final step, of course, is gonna be to water this plant in, but we're actually expecting tons of rain tonight. So I'm just gonna leave these plants be and let them get soaked in tonight so they settle in wonderfully. And it's that easy to plant in a no-till bed. I can't wait to get the rest of this bed planted and show you guys in a couple of months once everything starts to grow in. But let me show you this. The garden bed around the greenhouse was actually started using the no-till method. There are some freshly planted seedlings in there, but overall you can see how everything that was existing here before isn't here anymore. And everything that we introduced into this bed is thriving. Same with this side as well. Here are some other garden beds my partner has started using the no-till method. I even use it to create my pathways in the garden. I literally had giant pieces of cardboard that I laid here. Then I just laid the mulch on top. Same with all of the other pathways. I just laid cardboard in between, then went through and placed the mulch. You can even use the no-till method to do raised beds. Rather than tilling the soil where your raised bed is going to be, we literally just etched the edges, placed the raised bed within the soil, aerated the soil in the area where the raised bed was gonna go, laid down the cardboard, laid in our soil, then our mulch on top. and it worked so well. It really is such a versatile technique. You can use it in so many different ways. And there you have it. I really hope you enjoyed watching me build up this new garden bed using the no-till method, and that it inspired you to get out there and start a garden bed. If you use the no-till method, it's literally so easy. I feel like it makes gardening so much more accessible, so much more tangible for people, especially since this is like a lot less backbreaking, a lot less laborious than tilling soil. Plus, there's the added benefit of it being amazing for the ecology of your soil, which is the most important thing in a garden. If you enjoyed this video, please drop an abundance down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe and share to really help support and boost our channel. It is so appreciated. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll see you later. Here we are a few weeks later, and look how lush this garden is looking. I've gone in and introduced a bunch of perennials into this garden bed. Looking really lovely. Again, that cardboard, that paper, that biodegradable material, along with the thick layers on top, have done a really good job of mitigating any pre-existing plants and weeds. Now, a few do pop up here and there, but not nearly as intense or aggressive as it would have been if I didn't do that. But I'm really loving how the garden turned out. I hope this inspires you to start your own no-till garden.